Welcome, everybody. I can't believe it's that time of year again, but the Retro League is starting back up. I'm joined by Eddie, Andy, and Steve to talk about the 2025 Star Wars CCG Online Retro League. If you don't know about this, we're about to tell you everything you need to know in this video. We got a real fun crew. I'm trying to be high energy right now, Andy. I can see you rolling your eyes at me. But registration, you do need to register. It's open until January 17th, so you got a couple weeks here. It's going to start on the 19th. Steve, what is the Retro League?
Sure. So this is the 4th annual Star Wars CCG Retro League. This is a way to play the Star Wars customizable card game on the GEMP platform. That's the free platform that the Players Committee runs. You have access to every single card ever made. But what we do is we go through the classic Decipher sets, sort of group by group, not one by one. We have 5 events, and each event is kind of its own like self-contained tournament. The events run for 6 weeks, starting on January 17th and going all the way through December. And we're going to break down the different events this year and how they differ from last year. And yeah, you commit to playing 1 game per week with a paired opponent. And I organize the league, so I'll email the pairings out every week. You play your 1 game at a mutually convenient time. You don't need to report results. We have a way to like check on results. And yeah, it's a great way for both people who want to be super competitive and really dig into these formats and play the game as it was played in the 90s and early 2000s, but also for new and returning players who want to dip their toe into the game with a slightly smaller card pool, I think, or playing with cards they remember from when they were younger, which is always fun. It's a really welcoming community, and yeah, so we can get into a little bit more. That's sort of the basics.
I just want to say on the front end, mad props to Steve for doing this the last 3 years. Thanks. You've grown this thing to like nearly 100 people, and I think that is way more than anyone thought was going to be interested. So I'm hoping we can crack 100 this year. So if you're feeling nervous, I'll just say I lose most of my games. I go like less than 500. Andy knows this because
I'll second. Matt does a lot of losing.
So it's fine. It's a fun way to hang out and kind of meet some new folks and get involved in the community a little bit. It is a good way to dip your toes in. And
we use Swiss pairings, so you're paired against people who have a similar record as you. So yeah, the first couple of weeks is random. You might get paired with somebody really good, or like a world champion or something. But then after by week 3 or 4, you're playing against people with similar records, and yeah, you have a similar sort of competitive scale.
Yeah. So you might
there's physical prizes for everyone who plays, participation and performance, and we can get into that towards the end of the video about what we're going to be getting this year.
Great. So what's our first event then?
All right. So we're going to begin with Premiere-Hoth on January 19th. This is the very earliest 3 sets: Premiere, A New Hope, Hoth, and a couple of premium products like the 2-player game and Hoth 2-player game. And yeah, was one of the most popular ones in each of the prior 3 years. So we're definitely starting with this one. And let me turn over some comments from the rest of the group about thoughts on Premiere-Hoth.
Well, I'll just start. I'm so glad it includes the 2-player sets because that Chewie's going to make a big difference, right? So I'm so glad we get the 2-player sets.
The Walker Garrison, that's a good card.
Yeah, Walker Garrison actually is a big deal. But
yeah,
I think this format is really good because it really focuses, or you can really learn fundamentals because it's such a different format than when objectives were introduced, and so there's a lot more room to understand. Just deploying characters, having ability for battle destiny, the deploy beat, counter beat kind of rhythm. And so it's almost simpler, a simpler game.
Yeah, I love this format. It's probably my favorite, maybe actually second favorite. The next format's my favorite format. But this format's great because it's really like Eddie said, it's just all the really basics. It's the start of the game. They hadn't had all this type of complexity creep. It's just very streamlined, pure Star Wars CCG as it was originally intended to be.
Yep.
It's also a little bit better than just Premiere to A New Hope because it's not totally a Sense and Alter battle, right? Like there's some more stuff to do, more adventures to be had than just hanging out in Obi-Wan's hut.
That's right. Yeah. Let me just say two things up front. We chose the formats this year based on a survey of players who played last year. And there'll be an email coming out to the group who played last year. If you've not already received it, you should be receiving it soon within this video's up. Goes through some of the more details on the analytics and why we chose particular formats. But we'll save that stuff for the email. And secondly, since this is the first format of the year, we'll have a lot of support for new and returning players in it. We'll be emailing out links to a large number of deck lists for the Premiere-Hoth format, videos, a lot of support for it. So if you're not sure, if you're just on the fence, just load up one of the decks that did well last year and give it a shot.
Yeah, net decade, man.
I'm excited for it.
All right. So we move on. All right. Event 2 will begin in March 16th, March 16th, April 27th. This is Premiere Cloud City Modified. Andy, you're sort of the mastermind of this format. You want to talk about this one?
Yeah, this one's my favorite Star Wars CCG format of like all time. Premiere to Cloud City. It's the last of the like Decipher sets before starting interrupts. You just start one location. It's the last time you get to do that. And the problem is Dagobah basically ruined the game, in my opinion, for everybody. It introduced lots of just terrible cards for interactivity in the game. And Cloud City didn't really fix it. And so if you played this without the modified list, which you can see on the screen here, it's really bad.
Right.
So, I really wanted to. This is kind of like where Star Wars CCG was at Worlds in 1997. And in that tournament, it was lots of just NPE or negative play experience decks battling each other. So I looked at the format and I said, what are the like main cards that are just extremely NPE that will lead to just awful game states of people not playing with each other or against each other. They're just doing their own thing. And basically came up with this list. Now, we ran this event last year. We got lots of really positive feedback. Everybody that I talked to really liked it and loved it. We added in 2 more cards to the ban list based on feedback that we received last year and just kind of looking at the development of the metagame for this event as it unfolded, because it was really untapped, unexplored because of all these cards that were banned. So we added 2 cards, Dark Side Clouds. Now, Light Side Clouds had been banned last year because there's some really awful decks based on Dagobah or on Hoth under the energy shields with clouds. So we got rid of that last year, but Dark Side also actually has some really negative play experience clouds decks on Hoth with you can Walker Garrison off of all sites that don't produce light side force icons, 5th marker, 6th marker, 4th marker. And then you get these massive drains in the clouds that are then draining on non-battlegrounds on Hoth. And then you can Talon roll with TIE fighters in the clouds. And light side's already at a disadvantage with Talon roll, and then even more so at a cloud. So it just created like really bad game states there. So we decided to axe Dark Side Clouds and then Scanning Crew. That's new for this year. You know, the 15 or 18 copies of Scanning Crew decks shut down everything. Like, even if you grab it, you know, getting Scanning Crew 6-7 times is just like, you just get locked out of the game. So we got rid of that too.
And I'll say that the survey data, people were in favor of banning both of those. And, you know, you might ask why we didn't ban Scanning Crew in Premiere-Hoth. I think, and you can give me your thoughts on Eddie as well, but I think this is the ban list form, the mid Decipher era ban list format. Premiere-Hoth is a pure format. And we're striking a balance between pure formats and modified formats because we recognize that there are retro players with strong views on either side of the ban list controversy, if there's controversy. But like, yes, if you want pure, you want to do your Scanning Crew shenanigans, you got Premiere-Hoth. And then this is the one that's the fixed format for like mid Decipher era.
Yeah, and you can still play grabbers in Hoth and grab Scanning Crew. Originally, last year when we went through this, Steve and I debated Scanning Crew for this format specifically last year, but we thought that with shocking information in the format that it would keep Scanning Crew in check. But all that ends up happening is they grab your shocking information, or they just sense it because you don't have any characters on the table to fight a sense alter battle because they've Scanning Crewed everything, and they just lose 4 force and then continue to Scanning Crew you. So you'd have to have 10 copies or 15 copies of shocking information in your deck to beat them, and nobody was really going to play that. So,
and if you do end up doing that and you succeed at getting rid of Scanning Crew, then the light side's got a bunch of cycling 5s in their deck, which creates other issues.
So we just decided to get rid of it. But this format's great. Lots of positive feedback about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is the one format I actually skipped, and I'm excited to come back to it. So I'm trying it out. What do we have for event 3, though, Steve?
So traditionally between event 2 and 3, we take a break from the Retro League and do the annual retro event. This is a tournament for charity. It'll most likely be a tournament for charity again this year. It's outside the Retro League, and your scores don't carry over. It's a tournament played on GEMP where you can play whenever you want just by posting blind games, and people can join who've joined the event. So it's a chance to do something a little bit different, and we opted to do something very different this year and do Premiere through Virtual Set 3. Anybody want to talk about why we chose that?
So like Steve said, this hasn't really been tied to the Retro League, but Steve and myself, and formerly Jared, who was marketing advocate who's changed responsibilities within the PC, organized this event for the last few years, and it's always been retro themed. And one of the things that we want to do is it is usually tied to charity. The last couple of years, we've been supporting some children's leukemia in honor of Sean Valdez, who was a former Star Wars CCG player 30 years ago, who unfortunately had passed away from leukemia. And we revived that. So we've been supporting them. And, as a way to get more people interested in both playing, getting prizes, but also the charity aspect and making donations to a good cause, we wanted to expand it outside of just the pure Decipher formats and look towards doing some stuff with virtual cards. We see it as a win-win where maybe a lot of open players might be interested because it is still, tangentially open, essentially, not full open where they have 24 virtual sets. Now we're just looking at the first 4 sets because there's a virtual set 0. But also it's a win-win in that a lot of, say, retro players who have been primarily playing just retro formats can get exposed to a lot of the good things that the virtual sets do towards balancing the game that are present within those first 4 sets. And, maybe it opens them up to trying out open and, expanding their horizons beyond just, the traditional retro format. So we chose Premiere through Virtual Set 3. Virtual Set 3 was kind of a natural stop. Because starting in Virtual Set 4 is when all of the Disney era Star Wars stuff starts kicking into the virtual cards. So that sets really a lot of stuff on Jakku and with First Order. And, we thought maybe, people who are really interested in retro, we might lose some audience there. But Virtual Set 0 is basically the best of all of the legacy virtual cards that were released from 2002 through 2013, 2014 when they did the reset. So they kind of corralled all 1,000 or so virtual cards from that into 100 card or 150 card set. And then the next couple of sets, Virtual Set 1, Virtual Set 2, Virtual Set 3, add in another about 100 cards. So there's about 200 new cards that come in. And we are going to also include, I believe, all of the shields, even if
I think that's right.
After virtual, like in later virtual sets, just because there's some additional balancing that occurs with those. But yeah, I mean, this is in a way kind of like Premiere through virtual legacy, which I think is a kind of really interesting space to look at. This is for open players that might be interested in this. This is kind of open circa like 2016.
Which is retro. That's almost 10 years old.
Which is kind of retro now, you know? It's like the person who wants to play Vice City for GTA.
Right. But for me, this is fun because I played a lot of open in the pre-reset era up through like 2010, 2011. And so this will be fun to dust off my memories of some of those decks.
I think also with this format, you know, you can go look, there's a lot of resources of deck lists from the 2016 era on the PC's website. So people who are playing this from, say, the Retro League who aren't familiar with open at all can go have, you know, already a large deck list, you know, that they can look at. However, some cards have changed to errata or been blanked, or just, you know, in general have, you know, the format is different. So, you know, it is also kind of unexplored territory here as well for both retro and some, you know, open players that want to go back and look at this format.
And is this going to be turned into a format where we can like build a deck list easily? Like, you know, in the drop down, is it going to be something we can select?
It will. We'll make sure that's implemented in GEMP.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I think it'd be fun. If you are adamantly opposed to virtual cards, you can skip it because it's not part of the Retro League, but hopefully you give it a shot.
Yeah. All right, that brings us to May. What do we got for our next retro event?
Everyone's favorite.
Classic. This is my
Premiere Death Star 2, June 8th through July 20th, so right in the middle of summer. This format probably doesn't need a ton of introduction. It was overwhelmingly the favorite in the end of the year player survey, so it's natural that's coming back. It's very well explored, very balanced.
I look forward to building a bad Rebel Strike team deck for this format that will lose resoundingly.
Sure, yes.
I look forward to not playing your Rebel Strike team deck because I'm not going to be in the 05 bracket.
It's about having fun, Andy.
Yes.
Yeah, fair enough.
Actually, this is a good moment for folks that have made it to this point. Steve, there's a reason you want to do well in these games, right? There are actual prizes involved, right? And
yes,
folks
there are.
How do you get involved? All the links are in the video description, by the way. How does one get involved with this?
Oh, with Retro League, yeah. So there will be a link to join in the show notes here. It's going to be a two-step process. You'll fill out a Google form, which gives your email address and your GEMP username, and that'll come directly to me, and I'll keep all that data. And then you'll go to the Players Committee site, which is linked. It'll be linked here and in the Google form. There's a $10 registration fee to cover the prizes. And to support this whole league, all comes back to you guys in terms of prizes, and I think it's safe to say that it gets more than $10 in value every year out of it, just on the single cards alone. We'll get the prizes on the last slide. So once you do the Google form and pay the $10, then you're in, and you're in for the entire year to play as many or as few of these events as you want. So
great. Well, let's see our next event here.
Okay, so event 4, we have Classic No-V, August 3rd through September 14th. This is this year taking the place of any version of Reflections, Premiere Reflections 2, Premiere Reflections 2 Vanilla or Modified. And I think the reason for this year is partially to try something different, but also I think people have come to realize a little bit that there's that some people Premiere Reflections shows its defenders, but it has problems no matter how you try to implement a ban list. Whether Watch Your Step is involved or banned, or whether, if you take out Watch Your Step, then last we had my kind of scum really dominating the higher skill level players towards the top of the list. So we're trying something a little bit different this year. So this is, this is like Premiere Reflections 2, but with any other cards Decipher produced from the classic trilogy that do not have a maintenance cost on them and no shields. Any comments from the group on this one?
Yeah, this was a fun format. This was what the annual charity event was done in last year, and I played it, and it was very. There was a big difference in Premier Reflections too. Specifically, the Tatooine helper cards do bring a couple decks that otherwise would never see play, like Rebel Strike Team or, a Quiet Mining Colony. Right, and then they actually make them pretty viable and actually pretty good. So it was actually pretty fun. It wasn't all watch your step like you might imagine. It was pretty good, and you can look at the results on the PC website. It was a fun tournament to play, so I look forward to this one again.
Yep.
Yeah, I like Classic Novi. It's a good format. There's some really overpowered cards from Reflections 3, but that's part and parcel for later Decipher era sets. Yeah. So, but they're not like so overpowered like EPP Mall and stuff that you can't like play around it. It has like a Premiere Reflections 2 vibe and feel, but there's definitely some differences going on, like Eddie said. So yeah, Classic Novi's a lot of fun.
Cool. All right, so then our last event of the year, regular event, season event, will be Event 5, Decipher Cards Only Modified, September 28th to November 9th. I know, Eddie, you've been playing a lot of this format. You want to talk a little bit about what this is like and why we decided to go with it for this year?
Yeah, I think I might have suggested it randomly on Discord one time. I thought, hey, has anyone tried playing this without pod racing and Senate? Because I think a couple of years ago or several years ago, there was a Decipher Cards Only tournament, and then of course we did Premiere to Tatooine, like a separate event last year as well. And in the Tatooine event, everyone did pod racing, and in the Decipher Cards Only, all the decks were basically Senate and pod racing. And I thought, there's a whole list of cards that we can't play with, like EPP Maul, EPP Qui-Gon, but they kind of get polluted by pod racing and Senate. So why not, if we take those out, what does that look like? And I'm excited that it's made it here as Event 5, and I've been playing a couple of games online. I played one against you, Andy, and it is a lot of fun. There's some cool cards you get to play with that you otherwise wouldn't. And we did an additional ban based on some gameplay, which is the entire Legion effect, which is basically the Heart of the Nines deck, if you're familiar with that.
And so it makes blasters have their destiny number +2 when drawn for destiny. So Aura Singh's blaster becomes a 9 destiny draw, and Battledroid blasters become 8s, which is ridiculous.
RIP to the battle droids invented that.
Well, no, the Battledroid blaster gets a stick. It gets a stick at a measly destiny number of 6. So.
Yeah, I built both a Bring Him Before Me and a Hunt Down deck, and just played 10 or 12 copies of Aura Singh's blaster rifle, and literally every destiny you draw is a 9. So you're like, battle, target that character, draw 2 9s, they're dead. Draw a destiny, add a destiny. My total destiny is 18. I'm power 35 with 1 character. Lose your entire board. Next turn, do it again. Next turn, do it again. You just like track. It's really pretty gross. But yeah, I'm excited for this format too. I think
we know episode 1 cards have their detractors, but this is the format to give them a shot. And I know there's episode 1 fans as well. Matt, you're a known episode 1 fan, I think.
I love episode 1. I might go watch it after this video. I was actually just thinking about how we should just do a Galactic Senate battle sometime, Steve. Just the worst format.
Yeah, we'll just give it a shot. Senate only. Yeah.
I will mention too that this format does have shields, so it's actually a good introduction into shields. At least it has been for me.
Yeah. So I'm excited to play some of these cards. I also I have a soft spot for the later sets, provided that the pod racing Senate is gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've played quite a number of games of Decipher Card Only, both with pod racing and without pod racing, and against Senate and without, just playing against non-Senate decks. And pod racing's gross. It's the best thing you can do in Star Wars CCG, like by a mile, like hands down. It's such a huge swing. Senate is also gross with like random hand manipulation and all the political effects, and you can just never do anything against their characters at the Senate unless you're just all in on Senate as well. And as Eddie mentioned, this was there was a tournament before. This was actually the annual charity event 2 years ago.
Right.
And like the top 8 of that was like 16 Senate decks basically against each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, good.
It'll be fun. I mean, there's powerful stuff you can do without Senate and probably like lightsaber combat's gonna be big, invasion will be big probably. But that's fun to try that stuff out for one event.
I'm going to continue my streak of trying to play bad objectives by making
Hyperdrive.
Watto's Junkyard. That's a fun one.
Watto is pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
You should play Hyperdrive. Hyperdrive is one of the worst objectives ever made.
I have a paper format of that deck built, and it is bad. I've lost a lot.
It's horrible. I'd rather play Dantooine Base Operator. All right. Let's move on.
All right. Let's talk prizes. Oh, wait, no. Let's talk. First, we have to talk about Retro Online Championship Series. Like this year, we'll have a Retro Online Championship Series. It'll run for about 3 weeks or so. At the end of the year, this will be for the top 8 ranked players in the with cumulative league standing from the 5 league events. So, chance for those top 8 players to have a showdown. It'll be played in I was going to quarterfinals, semifinals, finals, and that'll be really fun. And we'll see who gets in the top 8. I have a strong feeling Paul Todd Feldman will be among them, but you never know. It could be anybody. Eddie, you were in the top 8 this year, which was awesome. Back in 2024. So yeah, and then in the top 8 players consecutively decide what format it'll be. Last year it was Premiere-Hoth Star 2. So yeah, we'll see what they choose this year. Okay.
Awesome. Prizes. Okay. So very similar to last year, but I think they're better this year. We're going to be having so the thing to know is that everything on here, so the last bullet point, played condition rare cards. Everybody's going to get rare cards in lightly played condition. They're all usually cards that have some home and some deck, which are really fun to get, and usually more than $10 in value of those cards. Everything else, the bullet points above this are going to go to both players for placement in the league, like top 1, top 2, top 3, as well as random players. So more in cut sheets this year to both top placers and random players. This year we're introducing PSA graded cards, which is really exciting. Very likely to be main characters or mostly main characters. So it'll probably be top finishers as well as definitely random people. Playmats, including at least one new design, I believe, will be coming out. PC swag, including a retro exclusive poker chip. The PC is designing a virtual card foil slip based on an original trilogy character or theme that will be exclusive to the Retro League. If you also play Open, I'm told this will be a useful card to have. And if you don't play Open, you can just collect it or trade it or whatever. Sealed booster packs and EPP type stuff as well this year. So I think it's an upgrade in prizes. Everybody should come home with something fun.
Nice. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is some great prize. But I'm most excited about playmats. I love playmats. I don't have enough desk space for them all, but I have a horde.
If you haven't gotten one yet, they are very high quality.
Nice.
Yeah, the house one's great. I got the Death Star one this year. The Players Committee does a great job with them. They stand up nicely with anything like Ultra Pro produces. Yeah, so I think you can also get them by donating through the PC donation program as well.
Great. Final thoughts, gentlemen?
I was looking forward to it.
I know this is great. I've played in it every year, and probably like one of the highlights of my week is getting the email from Steve for my pairings, and then figuring out how I'm not going to lose to a good player.
I'm glad to be doing it again this year, guys. I think it'll be really fun. And so feel free to join. Leave questions in the comments. If you have questions with the league, I'll be perusing the video and answering them as well.
Great. Well, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We hopefully will see you in the Retro League. We're going to hit 100 players, I have a feeling. So thanks for hanging out. Check out the Retro League, and we'll catch you next time.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks, Andy.